Did you have any advice for the president when he came forward with the blanket pardon on January 20th? What advice did you offer the president?
I am never going to talk about conversations, advice
Were you asked
in any
for,
way.
Were you asked
I'm
for
never
advice?
going to talk about discussions I've had
Because
or have not had.
You'll remember.
I can answer with the President of the United
Yes or no?
States.
Did you give him any advice? Yes or no?
I am not going to discuss any conversations
That's a
that
no.
I have had with it.
And
you just put
your
words in
own
my
word,
mouth. I am
but-
not going to
No,
discuss.
I'm going to reveal your own words.
I am
Just a
not
moment.
going to
Please stop.
discuss
Please stop. This
conversations
is my
that I've
time.
had with the President of the United States.
Attorney
You asked
General,
me a question.
I would like to reclaim.
When an attorney general refuses to answer the simplest question, did you advise the president on a blanket pardon for January 6th? That's not caution, that's protection. Today, you're going to see how far Pam Bondi will go to dodge that answer and why it matters.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Ranking Member. Thank you, Ranking Member. Thank you, and welcome, Attorney General Bondi. I just wonder, sincerely wonder, do you hear how hollow your last words sound in light of the pardon of all of the January 6th people, day one of this administration? I believe you're sincere. You want to protect law enforcement, but your principal, the president, pardoned every single one on January 6th. It rings hollow when you say these words, that if you spit on a police officer, we're going to go after you. Talk to my friends who are Capitol Police officers who were here, 5 of whom are no longer here. They are dead. And this administration, and I guess I want to ask you, did you have any advice for the president when he came forward with the blanket pardon on January 20th? What advice did you offer the president?
I am never going to talk about conversations, advice
Were you asked
in any
for-
way.
were you asked
I'm
for
never
advice?
going to talk about discussions I've had or
Because
have
you'll-
not had.
you'll
I
remember-
can answer with the President of the United
Yes or no?
States.
Did you give him any advice? Yes or no?
I am not going to discuss any conversations
That's a
that
no.
I have had with it.
And
You just put
your
words in
own
my
word,
mouth. I
but-
am not going to
No,
discuss.
I'm going to reveal your own words.
I am
Just a
not
moment.
going to
Please stop.
discuss
Please stop. This is
conversations
my
that
time.
I've had with the President of the United States.
Attorney
You asked
General,
me a question.
I would like to reclaim
and
the
you
last
asked
20
me to
seconds.
answer.
I have asked to reclaim my time. Please put 20 seconds back on the clock.
You have an extra 30.
If the general,
She answered and then answered it again and answered it again with a non-answer. I ask for your consideration
if the
of putting time
gentlelady
on.
will
You got
let the
30
witness
seconds
answer the
extra to
question,
begin with.
we will.
She
proceed.
answered it by saying no. Okay. The 3 hallmarks of this administration are incompetence, corruption, and cruelty. I'm going to focus today on corruption. And in my mind, there are 2 types of corruption: personal, and then the other I'm going to call public, governmental. Attorney General, have you ever been registered as an agent of a foreign principal under the Foreign Agents Registration Act?
I assume you're talking about when I represented the country of Qatar for a very short time.
The answer
Hold
is
on.
yes. No,
Hold
excuse
on.
me.
No.
No.
For anti-human trafficking
Just-
for the World Cup. Anti-human trafficking
or
for the
no?
World Cup.
Attorney
you can't
General-
put words in my mouth.
No.
You want to talk about incompetence? You're the one that
Excuse
said
me.
Joe Biden on PBS was competent. You had to retract those words.
Mr.
So don't
Chairman-
talk to me. Don't insult me publicly.
This is so discourteous. This is so outside the committee's guidelines. Taking a personal shot at me while swiping at Biden? Very strange and very unprofessional of you. The answer is yes or no, and the answer is yes. You were registered as a lobbyist for Qatar. Is that correct? Yes. Never mind. Don't answer. Did you disclose that when you went before for the Senate for confirmation? Yes or no? No, it was not in your documents. The answer is no. President Trump,
This was discussed at my confirmation hearings in detail.
it was discussed, but you failed to bring up the conflict that you had. President Trump recently announced he'd accept that $400 million Qatar airplane because it was just prettier than the one he was flying around in. Is it true that you gave advice that this was legally permissible? Yes or no?
I will not discuss any advice that my Office of Legal Counsel gives to the President of the United States on any matter.
When you spoke before the Senate, you said you would ask for ethical advice. Did you recuse yourself from that issue?
And talking about unprofessional, you say the president wanted a jet because it's pretty?
Excuse
Come
me.
on, this is a Senate, this is a
He said it
congressional
himself.
hearing.
He said it himself.
Let's start with the opening shot. Pam Bondi walks into this hearing selling herself as the sheriff of law and order. Tough on crime, tough on anyone who dares spit on a police officer. But there's one tiny problem. Her boss, Donald Trump, pardoned every January 6th rioter on day one of his administration. Every single one. So when Madeleine Dean brings up dead Capitol Police officers and a blanket pardon, she's not being dramatic. She's pointing at the exact crack in the facade. If your law and order only applies to poor people, protesters you don't like, and your political enemies, but magically disappears the moment it's your own supporters attacking cops? That's not law and order. That's a loyalty program. Watch how Bondi never answers the simplest question in politics. Did you advise the president? Yes or no? She doesn't say yes, I did, and here's why. She doesn't even say no. She hides behind a magic phrase, I will never discuss conversations with the president of the United States. That's the whole game. If she admits she advised Trump on the blanket pardon, it looks corrupt and partisan. If she admits she didn't, then why is she there bragging about her commitment to law enforcement while her boss throws out consequences for the people who attacked the Capitol? So instead of choosing, she picks door number 3, secrecy, and the committee lets her. Someone even jumps in and pretends she answered the question by saying no, which she absolutely did not. This is what protection looks like in real time, not some dramatic movie scene, just a lot of very careful non-answers. And then Dean pivots to the part nobody wants to talk about, money and influence. She asked Bondi if she was ever registered under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. That's not a random question. That's about one client, Qatar. Bondi immediately tries to reframe it. It was just for a short time. It was anti-human trafficking work for the World Cup. So noble, so humanitarian. Except Dean isn't asking about the branding. She's asking whether the top law enforcement official in the country previously cashed checks from a foreign government and then failed to fully disclose that when she went before the Senate for confirmation. That's not a small detail. If you once worked for Qatar and now you're giving legal advice to a president who wants to accept a $400 million jet from Qatar because it's prettier than the one he has, that's a walking, talking conflict of interest. It's not just looks bad, it is bad. Notice what happens when Dean presses the ethics question. She reminds Bondi that during her confirmation, Bondi promised she'd seek ethics advice and recuse herself when appropriate. So Dean asks the obvious follow-up. Did you recuse yourself from this? Bondi doesn't answer that either. Instead, she suddenly becomes very offended that Dean quoted Trump calling the jet pretty. Now it's about decorum. Now it's about being professional. Apparently, it's unprofessional to repeat the president's own words about an extravagant foreign gift, but not unprofessional to accept that gift, duck questions about it, and refuse to say whether you followed basic ethics rules. The people who break the rules love to hide behind tone and civility the moment someone notices. Dean sums up the administration in 3 words: incompetence, corruption, and cruelty. And this hearing is basically a live demo of all 3. Incompetence, when the top cop can't explain how blanket pardons for a violent attack on the Capitol fit into law and order. Corruption, when a former foreign agent of Qatar refuses to say whether she greenlit a $400 million jet from that same government to her boss, the President of the United States, and dodges any question about recusal or ethics. Cruelty, when the deaths of Capitol Police officers are treated as just another talking point to be brushed aside in defense of Trump's image. This isn't just about Pam Bondi. It's about a system that keeps rewarding people who treat public office like a loyalty test and foreign influence like a business opportunity. If we ever want a Justice Department that actually lives up to that name, these are the moments we can't afford to ignore. If you want more breakdowns of hearings like this, the parts they hope you won't replay, make sure you're subscribed, hit like, and share this with someone who still thinks law and order means the same thing for everyone.